This segment's being sponsored by the Tennessee Wildlife Resources Agency. Join us in preserving and protecting Tennessee's wildlife.
Throughout the year, we have the opportunity to work with several different organizations. One of our favorites is a ministry called Hope Outdoors. They give people with special needs the opportunity to go hunting and fishing or any other outdoor activity. And just like the ministry here at From the Blind Outdoors, Hope started with just an idea, and then God blessed it. You know, one of my favorite scriptures in the Bible is taken out of the Gospel of John. Jesus was teaching the multitudes one day. The Bible says up to 5,000 men, not counting women and children. And one of the disciples came to him and said, Jesus, it's getting late. You need to tell them all to go home because we don't have enough food to feed them. And Jesus said, don't you take care of them, you feed them. And all they had was a little boy's lunch, 5 loaves of bread and 2 fish. So Jesus blessed it, gave it to the disciples to give out, and the Bible said that they all ate and were satisfied. And then when the disciples picked up all the leftovers, there were 12 baskets full of leftovers, possibly one for each of the doubting disciples. So my challenge for you this week is this: don't look at how little you think you may have in your task for the Lord. Think about how big He is and how He can bless it. Because remember, little is much when God is in it. Thanks for watching this week. We pray that you are blessed. And always remember, keep shooting straight.
All right, everybody, this next segment's being sponsored by Taylor's Archery. You guys can find them at 100 East Lauderdale Street in Tullahoma, Tennessee, or give owner Tracy Taylor a call at 931-563-7706, and be sure to get down there and let him look over everything before you get out in the woods this year. Be sure you got a good safe bow or crossbow to get out there and hunt with, because the last time you want to find out there's something wrong is once you're up there in that tree and it wet.
Yeah, he knows how to set them up too. Hey, I got the shirt to prove it.
Yeah, he's representing tonight over there, Wes.
Right,
Well, guys, we're going to go ahead and open up the phone lines for you, 615-737-7767. If any of you would like to call in with any questions or comments you may have, we'll try to get those answered. Wes, as we went away, we were talking about some of the characteristics of an older deer versus a younger deer. But one of the ways that I use to determine maturity, or at least kind of a pecking order as I'm watching, is determining the way that other deer react to a particular deer.
Yeah.
Now, in part of one of those video segments, I had a deer that just came running into this field that was just, he was high timing, buddy. He was coming in there, and there were some does in front of me. But between him and those does, he didn't realize that 10-pointer, that 4-year-old buck, was standing between them.
Right.
And when he come down on that clearing, it took about half a second before he stopped dead in his tracks and turned around and went around the other way. And that's the kind of reaction that you'll get when there's a mature buck in the area, or when one enters the field. A lot of times the other deer in the field will tell you,
exactly
that
right.
He's coming. They're going to let you know, and they're going to get out of his way.
A lot of times too, just what you said, when a mature buck comes, a year and a half to enter field with a bunch of does, they'll kind of look up. 2.5-year-old kind of look up. When that mature buck hits the field, they scatter.
Yeah, they get out of the way.
They get out of there, and not only the bucks but the does.
Yeah.
They'll run.
Yeah.
And characteristic behavior. Of course, the younger bucks are always going to react.
They will.
And even to scent. I was watching a field last year and had a big mature buck cross it, went up into the thicket. A few minutes later, younger buck, looked to be about 2 years old, came through there, and he got down there to where that big buck entered the woods. He jumped 4 foot high, run back 15, 20 yards,
Well,
Didn't
they
see
use,
him, but
like licking branches and things. That is the deer's way of saying, hey, I'm here. I'm in the area. They know each other's scent, and that's kind of how they, I know you as Wes, and, we know Taylor, so on and so forth. Well, they know those individual smells. They know that, and that's how so he knows that buck that's in the area, and he caught that scent, and he knows, I done had my tail whipped once, I done been reprimanded once, I ain't gonna do that again.
They're past cross one time or another.
We got a couple callers coming in here. Let's go ahead and go to our first caller. Barry, how are you doing tonight?
Well, I'm old, slow, hurt all over. How about you?
Hey, I was good, but I got over it. What can we do for you tonight?
Well, I guess what I really wanted talk about was more of hunter safety. I'm 63 years old at the moment, but on my 11th birthday, I was squirrel hunting, and I accidentally killed a fellow. And I know that last season you had a little squirrel hunting episode with a bunch of young gentlemen, kids, and some people. And they were walking around the trees and making the squirrels move around the trees. And when I watched that, it brought back memories, and it just tore me up. And I just wanted everybody to know, never get in front of the gun, sit down, let the squirrels move on their own, and do it that way. The squirrel ran down the trunk of this tree. I followed the squirrel down with my shotgun. The gentleman was standing on the other side, and it didn't turn out well.
I can imagine. I mean, yeah, absolutely. Safety is always our number one goal, no matter what we're doing.
Yeah.
I fully agree.
Yeah. So, I just wanted to bring that up so that people won't do that, because I know squirrel hunting season's coming up.
It is Saturday, I believe.
And also, talking about the dove hunting, sometimes the fellows on the other side of the field are shooting and you get peppered a little bit. Hey, everybody needs to put on some safety glasses. We don't need to get an eye put out from
That's right.
getting peppered.
That's absolutely right. And you can real easy on a dove shoot. You're absolutely right.
So anyway, just wanted to kind of put that in. So whenever you tell everybody to make sure when you're boating, put on your life jackets, always add, never get in front of the gun. I'd love to hear that every hunting season. And
Absolutely.
also, I just wanted to mention something that I saw this last turkey season, which was odd. A mockingbird was making the sound of a female turkey clucking.
That would be interesting.
I wish I could have filmed that. But that was something that I have seen, and I just wanted to pass that on.
Well, we appreciate it very much. Thank you for calling tonight, Barry.
Y'all have a fun night, and good talk to you.
All right, thank you.
Bruce, how are you doing tonight?
Pretty good. How are y'all?
Doing well. Thank you for calling. How can we help you tonight?
I got a deer question. I've got a buck we got on camera. He's an old buck. He don't have but one side on his horns. And we've had little deer with one side, just horns. And I always told my oldest son that I kill those because I want the meat anyway. And he said, quit shooting them deer. They'll come out of that. And we got the camera out and we got him again on camera. And a bunch of little bucks with one side horns again. So we can't ever see him to shoot him, but you think he's the daddy of them?
It not very likely, to be honest with you. I mean, what's most likely going on with him, if he's getting on up in age and becoming mature and he's got one side every year, he's probably got a permanent injury to his antler pedicle, is most likely what's causing that. And it should not be a genetic trait that he could pass on or anything like that. Most of the time when you see a young deer with half racks, it's because they've been bumping around a little bit too much in the early season when those antlers are soft. But it's not very likely at all that you would have a one-sided buck that would be passing on those genetics. Genetics get a lot deeper. They go into the does as well. There's just as much on the doe in the genetics of that deer as there is on the buck. Is one reason why that would not be that likely, but also the fact that your deer is coming back every year and only has one side because they regrow every year, it's most likely just a permanent injury to the antler pedicle is what's causing that with the older deer.
Okay.
And they will come out of that. if they're broke off at a year and a half, whatever it is, that next year, they're going to come back again and so on and so forth. But any size buck, I've seen some of the smallest spikes you ever saw turn into some fantastic bucks. So just let them hang in there and get a little older if that's what you're after, and you'll probably be surprised at what they'll do in the future.
All righty. Well, I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you for calling.
I appreciate y'all's show, and I like the preacher man.
Thank you very much. Have a great night.
Thank you.
All right, guys, we've got a few other callers. Well, actually, we'll go ahead and take some of you guys in the fourth segment. It's time to go on right now and do this week's tip of the week. This week's tip of the week is being sponsored by Phoenix Custom Quality Rods. Y'all can find them at phoenixrods.com. Or here in the state of Tennessee, call Mr. Jim Brewer at 931-213-1455 and let him get a Phoenix rod in your hand and see what we've been talking about this whole time. All right, now the tip I'm going to give tonight, Wes, I actually give this one about once a year, but it's a good one, and it came up today with a friend of mine, and that's why I want to go over it for this year. A friend of mine sent me a picture today of a doe that is very much pregnant right now, and the picture was taken 3 days ago. She's ought to have had them babies today.
Wow.
Okay, this happens. The rut does not. They don't have a clock,
right.
And the does will continue to come into heat over and over until they get bred. So I was talking to him about this today, and I pulled the calendar up, and I've got this little thing to take back and count back the days. And 200 days is the magic number. If you'll back that up 200 days, it can tell you when that doe was bred. And she was bred somewhere around the 1st of February this past year.
Yep.
So it just I always hit that every year, because when you see your main fawn drop, I always look for when I've got, multiple does coming around the cameras, right, and they've got fawns, or I can tell they've got babies in the brush or something. At that point, I back that up 200 days, and you can be pretty certain that's going to be your peak of the rut on that property. Yeah. And most of the time, it's going to revolve every year about the same time. But you still, on February 1st, are still liable to have bucks chasing does. If there's a doe in the area and she hadn't been bred yet, they were going to be chasing. And so it's the rut, really, the rut as we call it, really never ends from the time that.
And we're seeing some changes in the state, you know, than it seems like what it used to be 10 years ago, even, or 15
as far
years
as
ago.
The timing.
Southern part, south of Pittman County, Perry County, Wayne County. Them guys are seeing some differences.
They're starting to see an Alabama type rut down there, Yeah. They are. So anyhow, 200 days, if you want to know when the peak of your rut is, when your does start dropping the most fawns, back it up 200 days, and it'll give you a real good idea of when it is. We're going to take another quick break. When we come back, we'll take a few more phone calls. We'll have some more Southern Woods and Waters.